She came to me and she said, "Hey, Chris, for the project, you got to go to a courtroom." So I went to the courtroom, sat in the court, and I was like, I can't do this for the rest of my day. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try to become an information systems. I just want an opportunity. Anybody that wants to get in this field, like, first, think about it. What is your why?
Welcome to the CyberSec Migrant. This is the podcast where we dive into real journeys, real lessons, the real talk behind thriving in security. And today, my guest is not just an information security officer, or ISSO, as the cool kids say, but he's somebody who has actually carved out a path for himself that's both unique and inspiring. We're talking about everything from breaking the cyber to what it really looks like supporting defense contractors through RMF compliance. More on that later. And most importantly, the wins and challenges of being a black professional in this space. And trust me, we are going to also get into what is TechWoke, because Chris is the brain behind TechWoke. My guest today is Chris Okpala. Chris, welcome to CyberSec Migrant.
Thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm very excited to come on your podcast. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I love what you're doing. I love that you're trying to show different black professionals and what they do to motivate different people. And, being a Nigerian, so, coming on the podcast is amazing. So thank you for having me on the podcast.
Thank you. Let's start at the beginning. Now, I know a bit about you and your background, and some of my audience probably would go check out your LinkedIn. But again, because usually in my experience, and in our industry, which I'm sure you know, people see a very polished LinkedIn profile. They say, oh, he's got all of these things, but they don't see the messy middle, which is what usually is what it is, right? So take us back. Tell us about yourself. How did you get into cybersecurity? What did that shift look like for you?
Now, I'm going to be a little bit long-winded. Like you said, everybody sees the polished version. They see the photo, they see the podcast, they see RMF Academy, but they don't know where I started. I wasn't started where I'm at now. That is from pure consistency, So I'm going to be a little long-winded, so I'm going to take you back from where I first started. So I grew up in Washington, D.C. So when I grew up in Washington, D.C., I played sports. I grew up in kind of a bad area. So in that area, they kind of taught you that it's either sports or you're not going to make it in life, or either you're not an entertainer, you're not going to make it. So that's kind of my story right there. So as I was in high school, I'm like, okay, well, there's no point in going to college. I mean, if I didn't make it, you didn't do basketball, football. So I didn't have no scholarship. I wasn't even that great, to be honest with you. I know I'm 6'4", wasn't that good, but I was like, what else is to do? Is either military. My father looking at me, he's like, you want to go to military? Actually, that was a good idea. I didn't know. So I was like, I don't know, So what I did was I went to Prince George's Community College in Maryland. So as I was going there, I wanted to dabble in technology, but I was scared because of the background I was in. I didn't know if I can even major in this because they told me I couldn't do these things. And there wasn't platforms like yours and myself to promote this, So you know what I did? I was like, okay, I'm going to become a lawyer. So I was like, that's the best thing. In an African household is either you became a doctor or a lawyer,
Exactly.
So I'm going to become a lawyer, So I didn't know why I wanted to become a lawyer, So I'm in Prince George.
To make the parents happy.
Yeah, I made them very happy for a little bit. So when I first started, as a biology major, right, in Computer Science Community College. And then I transferred eventually to Bowie State University. It's an HBCU in Maryland. And then I was doing biology, and my father came up to me, which was probably the biggest blessing in my life. He was like, what are you going to do with a biology degree? Realistically, what are you going to do with a biology degree? I can't make no money with that. And I was like, at first I thought he was being a kind of iffy, but it kind of blessed me low key, So I was doing that, and then I okay, well, I don't want to do biology. So during that time, it was the George Floyd, all these black empowerment things going on. So I was like, let me become a lawyer. So I'm dedicated. I had a criminal justice degree and all these things, and I was like, let me just become a lawyer. So as I was majoring it, this one particular professor, she came to me and she said, hey, Chris, for the project, you got to go to a courtroom. So I went to the courtroom, sat in the court, and I was like, I can't do this for the rest of my day. These people are just paid liars.
Yep. I don't know until you try to don't know.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I don't know whether I should do this. So you know what I did? I was like, okay, well, I just finished it out. My friend got me a job as a background investigator after I finished school in the criminal justice major. And I still wanted to do tech, but I wanted to go back to school, but it was too late then. I would have probably spent another 2-3 years. Me and my boy, we got a background investigation job, and we heard something about called the Security Plus. Back then, you could just get a Security Plus and get a job. I wish I knew. So we waited like another year or two, and then we finally got our Security Pluses, and we applied for the jobs. But I noticed we heard about the Security Plus. I didn't apply for a Security Plus. I didn't apply for the certification for like 2-3 years. But in the meantime, I went back to get my master's degree in digital forensics or digital investigations, which is the cumulative to a cybersecurity degree. So I got that degree, and I noticed in that program, a lot of this information was outdated. I was like, I can't even get a job anyway, but it's good to have the degree. So eventually, I was like, what's going to see? So eventually, I got this degree. I was like, okay. So I applied for jobs. I wouldn't even get no interviews. I think I got 1 or 2 interviews, but they kept asking, what do you know how to do? I didn't know how to do anything. So the next thing I did was get the Security Plus. I was like, okay, I got the clearance, I got the Security Plus. So I got the, I was like, I ain't gonna lie, I was like, heaven gates open. I'm like, I'm about to get jobs everywhere. 200-300 people about to bless me with a job. You know what happened? No jobs.
Yep. Nothing. Crickets.
No jobs. In that time, I was talking to my boy. I was like, listen, what do I need to do to get a job? And I'm like, so I was like, what do I need to do? So I started focusing on certain things. And my boy came up to me and said, hey, Chris, you might want to be an information system security officer. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try to become an information system security. It's either that or cyber. But what I noticed that was different this time, I knew what I wanted to do. So when I tailored my resume, I was getting more interviews. And eventually I got this one interview, and I ain't going to lie. He was like, Chris, I said, listen, I don't know none of this stuff, man. I just want an opportunity. I will work. I don't care. I will work. You can pay me whatever. I could have took, if they had gave me 50K, I would have took 50K. And then he gave me my opportunity, and then that's how I became an information system security officer in the GovTech space.
That's fun. That's a wild ride, yeah. And again, yeah. I think, I know, because for many folks, and I've spoken to quite a lot of people, it's always about, you never really know what you want to do until you actually try it. Sometimes say, I want to be this, or I want to do that. And then you try to man, it's not for me, so I'm not going to do it. I agree. But eventually you land up on this role as an information system security officer. It's not a title that's common in the industry. Well, it is common. If you're not in cyber, you don't know what an ISSO is. So what exactly is an ISSO?
So in a space, people particularly don't know what the position's called. It can be called different things. It can be called cybersecurity engineer. It can be called cyber analyst. It becomes an IA analyst. Particularly, people don't know what an information system. It's just too much. People just think you're some type of guru in tech. But no, it's not. You're not a guru at all. But what I will say is a difficult position. So just to sum it up, in the federal space, an information system security officer. I'm gonna break it down like this: FISMA is a government body in the federal government space. They have rules and regulations on how to protect government systems, right?
Yeah.
Since FISMA is the government regulating body, risk management was created to kind of intertwine with FISMA requirements. To kind of, what we have is risk management framework now. What risk management framework is, when you bring certain governments, say for example, you bring OpenAI, right? OpenAI, a lot of that stuff, when you put anything in OpenAI, is it can go anywhere. We don't know where. It's not secured for the federal government space. You can put, say for example, you get some secret information, you put it on there, it's gone. You don't know who has access to it. You know
exactly.
Yeah. So what our job is to make sure is regulated, meaning we have to make sure it has everything is being documented. We got to make sure the vulnerability scans are in place. We got to make sure STIGs are in place. STIGs are things that are used to harden certain systems to make sure they hit certain requirements to be in the federal government. You got to make sure it has an ATO. You got to make sure it even has a team to make sure it can be protected while it's in the government. So an information system security officer in general in the federal government space is designed to, protect the system and reduce the risk as much as possible.
And that's the key. I think in most businesses, that's one of the things we do, reduce the risk. But I've had people say things like risk and compliance is just checking a box, which it actually is not. But people think it is just checking a box. How do you let the audience or those reading that we're not just checking a box to say, oh, Do we have 256-bit encryption? Check, yes. Do we have multi-factor authentication? Check, yes. But that's not really what risk management really is, right?
No, it can appear like it's checking a box, but there's a lot that goes behind the scenes to make sure these things are uh protected. For example, making sure the encryption done. Do you know how hard it is to get an engineer to get that thing done? Do you know how hard it is to create a documentation for an entire system with controls? And controls are provided by NIST 853. I
Mm-hmm.
think NIST 800 171. If you want to learn about risk management, that's the best document to check out. But you got to make sure the controls are followed. You got to make sure that even you're fighting against your own team sometimes because they don't understand what's going on. You got to make
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
that the dumbest things that they think is dumb, like for example, a contingency plan or say a documentation, you got to make sure they know it is worth caring about.
yeah,
And it's a big job. And what I do personally to make sure people know, I go live on LinkedIn. I show them. I show them how to do the job. I show them what goes into it. I talk about the job. And it can make them a lot of money too, but it's a lot that goes on to this. And even what risk management is going to now is becoming more technical because we have to
yep,
make sure
yep.
things is automated. Even with me, I'm learning different things like cloud. I'm getting my certain certifications so that when it does happen, I'll be ready.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing I think, because it's the biggest challenge I think for those of us who are in the GRC space is it's so dynamic. I've heard people say things like, oh, I want to get into cyber, but I am not technical. And I'm like, what do you mean by you're not technical? Because like you mentioned, 853, that's a technical document.
Yeah.
800, 200, zero trust. It is a technical document. So how can you tell me you're not technical if every day you spend is going through some technical document?
That's a good. And I love when you said that because it's like I have to explain people. People look at me crazy. Even people that's in the field, like, "Oh, you're not technical." How am I not technical? And I got to explain this thing to a. I got to explain this document to to people that are in the field. Imagine that's almost impossible if it's not technical.
Exactly. People struggle with when they say, how do you meet a certain, control that necessitates? It's hard to just say, oh, I'm going to meet a control. You've got to actually think about, okay, how do we put in place the tools, automation, for example, like you said. And even with automation, the risk is, even if you're automating everything, do you have oversight? Because automation is great, but once it goes wrong without any oversight, it's bye-bye out the window. So I think it's so important. But let's change tack for a bit here. Obviously, you are not a white person
Yep.
in a field that's
Not.
typically and historically dominated by the white folk. So what has your experience been like navigating this space as a black professional? What's your perspective been like? How difficult has it been? How challenging has it been? Any big wins you're particularly proud of?
Yeah. I will say this. So I grew up in Washington D.C. I don't know if you're familiar with D.C. back in the day, but it was called Chocolate City.
Yeah, I know the area.
So coming into a space that's diverse with different people, different, nationalities, it was very different for me. I'm not gonna lie. You have to adapt to certain jokes. You have to adapt to certain mannerisms. You got to adapt to certain clothing. Like even now, I got on a dress shirt. It's been baked into me to wear professional gear as much as possible. Working in the environment, I'm not gonna lie. Like my first couple years working in this space, it was kind of like I don't know if I belong because like it was always painted a picture that certain races or certain people are better. But what I have learned being in this space, the people that you think are the smartest or the greatest or they're just like me and you, they don't know. They're learning like we're learning and you belong on the same level as them. And that's kind of the main thing I've learned. And from accomplishments, I was from working in my space, I've led teams. I've gotten in my space, if you get a long ATO, like a 2 year, 3 year ATO, that's really good. I've led multiple adversarial assessments. I've led teams on documentation. I led teams on testing controls, on all this stuff. I've been in rooms where I'm on the phone with all these different people and I'm telling them what needs to be done. And the thing about that, sometimes it can make you like a bad by being in our space, but over time it makes you authority. And then also too, I've helped train many, many people in RMF. I've trained over 20, 30 people at this point with my business and just help before I even started business. I helped many people get to a certain level career wise, money wise, So those are some of the best accomplishments I have, because it's going from you're not belonging in this place to, okay, you belong and you can help other people.
Exactly. And I think that's the key thing, because, and it's something particularly where we come from, particularly, it's always, there's always been a sense of community. It's just the way we are. You don't do things alone. The saying is, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. That's the saying. So yeah. I think it's always, for me, it fills me with pride every time I see more and more people who look like us getting in here and thriving and succeeding. And that's because we're making the way for them to do that. So I think it's so important that we continue to do that, and continue to show that, there's nothing that should stop you from belonging. I think I was speaking to someone a few months ago, and he said, when he first started out, he's an instructor at a college here in Canada. He said was talking to someone, the person said something like, "You're not the kind of person that should be an instructor." And that was the sole reason why he decided, I'm going to prove you wrong and become and do everything. So he went in, he got his BSc, he got his master's, got his PhD, and now he's an instructor, showing that.
That's amazing.
By saying he can't do it, that was the motivation for him to actually do that. So I think it's so important that we all, end up doing that. Now, one of the things I found interesting, or I find very interesting with your profile, is you've done some work with law enforcement. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah.
Cyber and law enforcement is always very fun.
Yeah. So I work with different agencies. I can't say some agencies, but I'm gonna say this. I worked as a background investigator. I work as an intel analyst, and working with them is kind of different because they have a mission that they need to do, and you have to make sure you're doing the mission right. So like when you're working as a background investigator, sometimes when people can kind of look at you scary when you got a badge, or if you say you're an intel analyst, they'll think, oh, okay, you know everything about me. That's just not at work. You have a team.
I'm not gonna say anything.
I don't know nothing, but yeah, it was interesting. I didn't do no cyber work for them, but working in law enforcement helped give me a better perspective. Like, say for example, whoever the president is right now, he says certain things. From your background doing certain jobs, it helps translate more because it's like, oh, he's not just saying it; he's saying it based off this. So sometimes people can get misunderstood because of working in an intel or a law enforcement. They see things that you don't even see.
True. I think that's so true, because particularly I remember, because I as part of the community here in Vancouver where I am, I have a friend who is in law enforcement, and she specializes in OSINT. So for her, it's all about, her words are the stupid things people put online and don't realize that they're stupid. And again, it's just the way humans are. So I think sometimes working in law enforcement actually helps you to understand that, have your wits around you a bit more than you normally would. So I know you probably can't tell. I know you probably can't say. Again, it's probably all classified at this point. How has those experiences, or any parallels from that world of law enforcement, or seeing things differently, how has that given you an edge in your day to day? How has it helped you with when you're doing your task, or when you're coaching people and letting them know this is how you think? Because again, I tell people, the mindset we have to have in cyber is, it's not just about knowing what to do. You've got to have a mindset. That's what helps you actually succeed and thrive. So how has that helped?
Yeah, I would say working in law enforcement, working as an intel, working as a program manager, it helped me with dealing with people. In our field, we always have to work with people, especially in GRC. We have to talk to engineers. We have to talk to project managers. We know not all the time they're going to be nice to you. They're not always going to be nice to you. Sometimes they'll ignore you, So it taught me, everybody, you just got to meet people where they at. If somebody likes messaging you on Teams, right? Talk to them on Teams. If somebody likes to meet in person, talk to them in person. If somebody wants to talk to get something to get up and understand, do that, because it helps build better relationships. And understand, like, working in that field, sometimes it can be cut and dry. Sometimes if you're not doing your job right, they'll let you know. They'll tell you straight up, like, this is how it is. So it helped me be better with coaching, helped me be better with understanding things. And it helped me be better, just like know there's a mission and don't take things personal. Because I think a lot of people want to think that everybody's nice. I don't want to burn their bridges. But at the end of the day, you gotta do what you gotta do to be in this field. It's
Yeah.
not, if you want to get to a certain level career wise, you gotta do is what the mission is. And if the mission is to do this, they can't get mad at you for doing your job. If they fire you for doing their job, then it's just a personal problem.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that's so important. We've got to learn to separate the person from the job because they're two different things, you know. The job is the job, no matter whose ox is God. Let's zoom out for a bit, you know. Let's zoom out for a second. And this is something that, because you mentioned that already, you do a lot of coaching and training, something I do as well. And I do know at this time there's a lot of people, a lot of my listeners as well, who are either looking to get into cybersecurity or pivot in from a different non-traditional background, you know, trying to find their first role. You've lived that, I lived that. My first degree is in chemistry. My second degree is in pharmaceutical chemistry. But here I am 15, 17 years later doing cyber. What's your biggest piece of advice for someone who is at that point where like, okay, I want to leave everything I've done behind, maybe nursing, maybe whatever, and I want to go into cyber? What would you encourage that person to do?
Yeah, as a person that came from a non-traditional background like yourself, and you're a genius, dude. If you're able to get all that in chemistry, man, hey, you're a genius. I just want to give you your flowers too. Like, dude,
Thank you. Thank
that's
you.
crazy. But at the same time, I came from a non-traditional background, criminal justice, grew up in a sketchy area. I didn't know becoming a program manager, doing all these things. The first thing I would tell anybody that wants to get in this field, like, first think about it. What is your why? And your why can be like, I want to make money. Do I want to make money? Do I want to make more money? Do you want to help with cyber? What is your why? Because at first my why was just money. I'm not going to lie to you. My mind was just like, okay, I just need money. But over time, it's like working in this field to scale and grow and be the best that you can be. Money's not going to get you. Got to eventually adapt that I want to protect the mission, or I want to make sure the mission grow. Find your why. The second thing I would tell anybody is like, what do you want to do? If you're going to get into this field, you got to decide, what do you want to do first. Once you find out what you want to do, get the training. After you get the training, network. After you network, fix your resume. After you fix your resume, call people that you network with to do the interviews. And then lastly, just start applying to jobs. Once you know what you want to do it, but just don't care. And then last thing I would tell people is, make sure you go ghost. Make sure you disappear. If you're going to get into this field, and even with me, I got to go ghost soon. Appreciate you for coming on the pod, bringing me on, but because I'm going to go ghost pretty soon. But go ghost when you have a mission, what you want to do. If you want to get a certification, if you want to proceed better in your career, you got to disappear for some time, because eventually you can only get by for so long. This is a
Yeah.
continuous learning
Yeah.
job. It's not for everybody.
I agree. And I totally relate to that going ghost thing. And someone once gave me an analogy. He said, you know, you say caterpillar is on a leaf, it's running around, it's fine. And then it disappears into a cocoon. And you don't see it for a number of days. But when it emerges out of that, it's a beautiful butterfly. That's what's cooking. So you don't get to the next level. A caterpillar cannot remain a caterpillar for life. If you want to become a butterfly, you've got to change. You've got to go into that cocoon. You've got to go into that space where you actually cook internally, and then emerges that beautiful thing. So I think it's the same thing here. You can't get to the next level in your career, particularly in cyber, without actually doing that. You know, doing the work it takes to maybe to pursue the CISSP or the CISM, or spend some time doing, you know, because again, it's not all about certifications. They spend some time doing all the work, all the research you need to do. If you're working on a home lab, you wouldn't have time to go socialize on Twitter and Facebook because you've got work to do, right? So that's so important. I think that's one of the big things. So know your why, polish yourself, network. I think that's so important, particularly for people who are minorities as well, because I think we already at a disadvantage, that the only way we can correct that disadvantage is to network ourselves into the right opportunities, I think. So that's so crucial.
Yeah, and I say
Go
one
on.
more thing on that. It's like, I wasn't able to get the positions I got without networking. We're living in a market now. If you don't network, if you're scared to reach out to somebody, there's so many AI resumes out there.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's so many. It's probably like 100 AI resumes out here. What you gonna do? You got a network, and just don't think you can do it. I've talked to so many people that look like me and you. They think they can do it by yourself. You cannot do it by yourself, and you might need other help. If that's
Yeah,
what I'm gonna tell people, you
absolutely.
might need other help.
Absolutely. I said to someone, and again, I have a lot of recruiters in my network, and I was talking to a recruiter recently, and she said, I put up a posting for a role, and within 30 minutes, I have over 200 applications. How many do I really want to read? So it's always easier for someone for I as a recruiter, she said, if someone refers that person to me, because then I know that this is someone who has done some initial vetting for me. I don't need to screen as much as I would screen others. So I think it's that networking thing is so important for us to actually get to the next level. But I want to digress and come back to something that I think you're going to find a lot of fun. We're going to talk about TechWoke, your platform. Because again, today, the word woke, whichever side of the divide you're on, it has some hidden connotations. Why TechWoke? What's the thing behind it?
Yeah, so when I first started TechWoke, my friend Arisi, he gave me the name. It was called TechWoke. And I was like, woke. Woke has a bad negative connotation.
Yeah.
So I said, why? Yep. I said, why do you come up with the name woke? He said, because it means you're enlightened. It means that you have more knowledge. It means, like, are you an anime fan?
Yeah, a bit.
Okay, you ever watch Dragon Ball Z?
Yep.
Okay, so like Goku, he gets to this phase called Ultra Instinct.
Mm-hmm.
So when he gets to Ultra Instinct, his body just moves autonomously. Yeah. So when I talk about the word woke, it's saying, okay, you're at a level where everything is just moving in flow. You can block, dodge, you know what you're doing, you're good. So that's why we created TechWoke, because everybody that we bring on the podcast is going to help enlighten you and get you to a point where we had to go through blood. You look at behind our backs, we got blood, scars, some arrows to help you not deal with that, so that you can get to the point where you're in Ultra Instinct. You can start blocking everything before it comes. So that's the whole purpose of why we created TechWoke. And that's the only issue with TechWoke, but hey, but at least it has a different meaning.
Yep, that's the truth. I think that's the thing also, because I don't think using the term TechWoke in itself, there's anything wrong with that. So there might be the connotation publicly that, if you say you're woke, then it means you're negative or you're all of that. But I think, like I rightly said, sometimes we've got to look beyond that. And I think particularly in our space, we've got to be able to, like you said, get to that point, like Goku, where you are. It's almost instinctive. You don't have to think about it. It's kind of like a reflex action. Like you don't think about it before you breathe, right? Or before you eat. It's the same thing. Don't think about it. Just do it. Okay, I'm not quoting that lifestyle brand, but just do it and be the best you can out of what you do. I think so. I think that is so important. Wow, it's been such a powerful conversation today. It's been so enlightening. From we've learned about what an ISSO does. Lessons from law enforcement, importance of identity and community. Make sure you check out the TechWoke podcast. For those who are listening, I'm going to put a link down below in the chat so you can actually check that out. It's available not only on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but across all podcast platforms as well. Go on.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. You go on Spotify. You got Apple. Hey, make sure you check out TechWoke Podcast, and you go there and learn different information. So make sure you check it out. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also going to put a link to Chris's LinkedIn down below as well, so you can see all the good things he does. So it's not just me who's saying it. So don't just listen and take action. And the best way, I think, one of the best ways you can actually do this is to not just listen to these stories, but write down what you can take out of these stories. Stories like Chris's story, how he's gone from, wondering if biology was going to be his future, to today he's helping people like you and I get into doing something great in cybersecurity. So any final words before we wrap this up today?
Yeah, so anybody that looks like me and you that's trying to get into cybersecurity, I just want to let you know you can do it. It's going to take hard work and consistency. Nothing on this earth is going to be given to you, and especially, looking like me and you. So if you're going to get into this field, make sure you do your best. Give up partying. Give up going out. Focus on yourself. Focus on your journey. Do what you have to do to get into this field, because at the end of the day, we're going to a different space. We're going into AI, tech. A lot of jobs are going to be gone. So you got to work 10 times to get in this space, especially with all this DEI and all this stuff being removed that's been talked about. So you're going to have to get in being the best that you can be. So I would tell everybody, know what you want to do, get 1% better every day.
Exactly. 1% better every day. I think there's nothing more to be said. Thank you, Chris, for coming on this episode of the podcast. Really, really appreciate it. It's been really nice chatting with you. And thank you to the audience for listening to this episode as well. If you're not a subscriber on YouTube, consider subscribing to the channel. Follow us also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're available wherever you find your podcast. So feel free to follow and share this with someone who you think will also find this useful. And until next time, this is Femi signing off on the CyberSec Migrant. Stay curious, stay bold, and stay tech woke. Thank you.